Hey John, my name is Bradley.
Hello Bradley, nice to meet you.
My name is Kyle.
Kyle.
What's the
nice
story?
Well, you tell me what the story is. I'm looking forward to doing this interview with yourself, so let's see how it goes.
Right. So John, it's great to have a local man on the runner interviews today. The last fellow's from Leitrim, and can you tell us about where you're from and where you grew up?
Okay, well, I grew up in inner city Dublin, it's a place similar to this. I lived in Ballybock Flats for about 7 years ago. So I lived in the flats up in Marylebone Lane behind Guinness's, and I lived in the flats in Denore Avenue.
Yeah.
Were you interested in running when you were a kid, or did you play other sports?
No, I wasn't interested in running. I didn't do any sports because I wasn't good at sports, so I never had any opportunity. I didn't actually start running until I was 30. I was the one who was always picked last for the football team. Because of that, I never had any interest. I never had an opportunity.
At what age did you take up running properly?
Well, like I just mentioned there, I took up running when I was 30 or 31. So some people would say it was quite late, but then I would think that other people never find a sport that they're good at.
Yeah.
How did you find living in the inner city as a young person?
Well, when growing up in the inner city as a young person, to me it was great because I had lots of friends. There were lots of boys around, living in the flats as well. We had the playground, and I used to go to Fairview Park. I used to go up there playing, and I'd go fishing in the Tolka River. So for me, I found it a very enjoyable part of my life.
So we have learned that you run marathons and ultra marathons. For the many viewers can you explain what both of these distances are to run?
Sorry, what was the last part of that question again?
Can you explain what both of these distances are to run?
Okay, well, a marathon would be 26 miles, or as we say now, 42.2 kilometres.
Yeah.
And then an ultra marathon is any distance that is longer than that. So the races I would run would be based on time, so it would be 24 hours. So you'd be running for 24 hours, and I would run distances of 220 kilometres, which would be well over 100 miles. So that would be like running from maybe here to Cork without stopping. Now, when I say without stopping, the only time you stop would be maybe if you had to go to the toilet, but you wouldn't stop to be eating, you wouldn't be sleeping, you just keep going and going.
In running marathons around the world, what was the most difficult terrain and the most amazing place to run?
Well, it's hard to say what the most difficult terrain is because when you're there, what you're doing at the moment always seems the most difficult. But there was one time I did a marathon from Everest, above Everest Base Camp, and it has the highest starting line of any marathon in the world. And I was doing that with a blind athlete. His name is Pollock. So I found that extremely difficult because I had to communicate the surface back to him. The most amazing place I'd say was Antarctica. Not very many people get to visit Antarctica, and there's no other place that can compare to it. So you really have to be there to experience it.
Did you start throwing snowballs in Antarctica?
No, it's too cold, and there isn't really much snow there. It's mainly crystals of ice. So Antarctica is actually a desert. A desert is a place where you don't have water. So Antarctica, even though it looks like it, it's classed as being a desert.
Okay. As you said, you were working with Pollock and Sinead Kane.
Yes.
You worked with as well. Can you explain the difficulties you had to do this job properly?
Yes, well, you have to be good at communicating because I have to become the eyes of the person that I'm guiding. So you have to let them know the terrain is like ahead of them, and also at times when it's just boring, I'd be looking to describe the environment, let them know if there are trees, mountains, animals, anything like that. Just try and explain it to break up the monotony of it. But communication is the most important part. And I'll give you a perfect example to that. When I was going to Mount Everest with Pollock, Mark was totally blind, so he couldn't see anything. And if I was trying to explain to him about obstacles, so big rocks or small rocks, it was very hard for him to understand that. So I used to say words that he'd be familiar with. So I would say apples or oranges, so he'd know the size. I'd say footballs. So that's how I was communicating to him and letting him know what was ahead and what was around.
Yeah. You coached Sinead to help her achieve some amazing challenges. Can you explain the achievement Sinead did at the impairment she has?
Well, Sinead has 5% vision, so if Sinead was sitting here, she wouldn't be able to see you. She'd know you were there and she'd see an outline and could see the colours. So she relies a lot on the guide when she's running. So I was Sinead's guide when she ran a marathon on each of the 7 continents in less than 7 days. So we travelled the whole world in less than 7 days. We started our first race in Antarctica and then we finished in Australia. So we ran a race, got onto a plane, flew to the next continent, ran a race and then flew to the next continent. And then following on from that, Sinead set the Guinness World Record for running the furthest distance on a treadmill in 12 hours for a female. So she ran 130 kilometres in a treadmill in 12 hours.
So as you worked with Mark Pollock, can you tell us what Mark Pollock done as a what you completed with him?
Well, with Mark, I ran a marathon at the North Pole with Mark. That was the first race that I ran with him. Now, and then following on from the North Pole, we did the marathon above Mount Everest Base Camp, and then one at the Dead Sea. So we did the highest marathon in the world and the lowest marathon in the world, more or less back to back. And a few years later, Mark had an accident where he fell out a window and he broke his back. So Mark is now paralysed from the waist down. So he's not running anymore, but he's still involved in sports. He uses a hand cycle. And there a couple of years ago, I was training for a race with Mark, which was to travel along the full length of Lake Baikal, which is the largest freshwater lake in the world. And it's called the Black Ice Race because the ice looks black. And we were training for that race and it was cancelled. So that was the last event I was actually doing with Mark myself. But at the moment, Mark now is training for a lot of hand cycling events.
What is the furthest you have run in one race?
First I have ran in one race is in a race called the Spartathlon, and that goes from, it's held in Greece, and it goes from Athens to a town called Sparta. It starts at sea level going across the mountains, and that's 256 kilometres. So if you want to, like 160 kilometres is a mile, so you can work out what that distance is. And that was in one go, so that's the only stopping you would be doing would be to maybe pick up some food at an aid station, or if you had to go to the toilet.
Are there any challenges you'd like to achieve in the future, and what would be the dream challenge to you?
Yes, well, I always like to set myself new challenges because you have to have something to aim for, otherwise you won't know where you're going. It's like when you're in school, you have exams, so that's something you aim for, and then you decide what you're going to do after that. So I always like to have something else following on from what I'm doing. At the moment I'm doing a lot of coaching, and I'm trying to bring athletes who are starting out at ultra running, try to help them better themselves. I also work with the Irish ultra running team. I'm the team manager, and again I'm trying to encourage more people taking part in that. So personally, there's a race in Death Valley in the USA, which is 150 miles through, and it starts at the lowest point in the States, called a place called Badwater, and it finishes at a height of maybe, I think it's 2,000 or 3,000 meters, but very, very hot race, so I'd like to do that.
Did you ever think you could not complete a challenge or have doubts in yourself?
In the beginning, I never started in the beginning because I never thought it was good enough, and that's because of the mindset I had from when I was younger, that football was the only sport and I wasn't good at football. And then if you just see one sport and you're not good at it, you start to think that I'm not good at anything. But when I got a little bit later, I had some friends who were training for the marathon, and then I started training for the marathon. And when I realised I could do this, I could do something, I then started to think, I can do anything that I want, that I kind of put my mind to. And every race that I've kind of went out to do, I finished it. And I just find that if you find something that you like doing, you'll get better at it. So for me, I just found that I just kept trying different things, and I found a sport I was good at.
Who or what inspires you to keep running and competing in competitions?
Well, one of the things that inspires me to keep going is running has turned out to be very good to me in that it gave me an opportunity to travel. But after I did the first big race I did was across the Sahara Desert, 150 miles. And when I come back from that, I kind of stopped training. And it was only when I started training again for the next race, I then realised that if you don't train or do some form of exercise, that you lose it. So I think exercise is really, really important. And that's what kind of keeps me going, is that I know I have to keep fit. The sport you do is a personal choice, so we can all do different things. It's not all about running, so there's football, hill walking, swimming, cycling. So sport is your own choice, but we have to exercise. And running is my way of exercising.
What message would you like to give to us lads here and our viewers about the challenges of life and how we should face difficulties?
Okay, well, the challenges in life, to me, I always think of endurance, and nothing lasts forever. So just accept what it is at the moment and know that there will be a positive outcome. So you have to endure, and it's through getting through tough times that you come out a stronger person. I found that during some of my races where you'd be 100 miles in and you really, really feel that this is just too much, I can't go on. But every step you take, every other minute is bringing you closer to the finish line. And by practicing that, I have learned these skills that just help me to keep going.
What type of clothes would you wear in the Sahara Desert?
Okay, well, in this, I'm going to make a comparison with the Sahara Desert somewhere cold. When you're in the desert, you have to, it's the way you dress is you don't wear a lot of clothing first of all, but you have to make sure that you have enough that you're covering your skin to prevent water evaporating from your skin, because that will dehydrate you. So because you don't have a lot of water to be putting into you, you have to make sure the water doesn't leave you. So I'd be wearing some fairly light clothing, but try and cover as much of my skin as possible. On my feet I would wear runners, something similar to what I'm wearing, but I would put something over them called a gaiter, which stops sand from getting in. So the gaiter would be almost like putting your shoe into a welly, so sand can't get into it. And you wear light fitting clothing which allows air to circulate and keeps you cool. Then if you're somewhere really, really cold, you have to make sure that you're stopping the heat from leaving your body. So you would wear we call a heavy down jacket, which is filled with feathers, and you'll be covering more or less every part of your body.
Right, that's it. Thank you, John.
Okay, and thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks very much. And thank you.